elite dungeon with range, I ended up wanting to do this as well. This one is slightly different from the other two, at least from my own perspective, part because ED3 is the one that I had the least experience in, and also part because this is the one where I haven't really been able to make range rival my melee personal records pretty much at all. I got close at Cressy and Leviathan, but I still haven't really managed to touch them, whereas in the other ones ranged ended up beating my previous melee records. Right, gear-wise, it's very similar, or like it's just slightly tweaked toward this. I have my Elite Serenic. I still don't recommend having that. I'm using Cinderbane gloves. I have a Ring of Death because I end up getting knocked out here when I fuck stuff up, and it just gets kind of expensive with the Elite gear and all the T92 weapons and everything. I have my Sentry Bolts in the quiver for same reason in ED2, because I want the Death Mark effect to be able to carry over to if I switch to rubies, which they only do if they're in a quiver. There's some weird bug going on, otherwise you can use normal Hydrix bolts if you don't want to use the quiver. I'm using a Superior Scrimshaw of Cruelty. I have done a lot of these runs with Grim as well, and I found that the Scrimshaw shaves maybe 10 seconds-ish, but it also kind of really depends on how much you utilize the Grimoire for Adren whoring and excessive Darkbow procs. Sorry, not Darkbow procs, Darkbow launches. Because the Adren management of being able to do as many special attacks as you can is kind of what makes range good right now. I have my Bladed Dive switch. I fucked that up in my actual run. This should be a power burst of acceleration, not vitality. I had vitality for being able to use the Eldritch spec and not bother prayer switching at some point during Ambassador. Got my Salve amulet for Taraket. My armor is not perked for ED3 specifically. I haven't really ranged ED3 a lot. I've done it the last couple of days because I think it's so much fun. But obviously this Dragon Slayer should be an Undead Slayer if you're doing only ED3 with this. Weapon-wise, it's pretty much the same shit. I don't bring any flanks here because I can't be asked. I didn't even end up using the flank in the ED2 video because I was soloing, but yeah. I got my Blight Bounce, my Eldritch Crossbow, my Greater Ricochet switch for when I'm ECB specking with this necklace. I got my chins, one dose Weapon Poison for the switch slot and for poison being applied to everything here. Since nothing here is poison immune, I'm using that, Quorum Sticks and Cinderbane gloves. My 2 rings, some food, some Vuln Bombs, a Bladed Dive switch, runes for Disruption Shield. And then by the time I get to Ambassador, I have a tweaked variant of this preset that I use for him. This replaces some of the unnecessary shit. I don't bring the chins for Ambassador, for example. I replace that with a shield switch, so if something goes wrong, I can snipe a res here and there, or if P3 ends up being pretty slow, I can deal with the second onslaught attack. Got Sentries and Rubies. This one is actually useful for the Ambassador, and then for the Elephant in the Room, yeah, I'm using Super Bruce. I can't really honestly recommend anyone doing that. I made a ton of money recently and I don't really care about it, so I've just been doing them because I think it's, more fun to use the Gucci supplies, but it's absolutely in no way necessary for this. You could replace them with regular Bruce, or if you're actually nifty with your Dren management and good at prayer switching, that could just as easily be Guthix Rest as well. So going to talk over the runs, start playing them. A lot of this is going to be common sense crap. The mobs in this dungeon move around a lot, so like your placement for where you walk, when, etc., that can vary a little bit, but it doesn't matter a ton. So for this first room, I'm just chinning the 2 groups of mobs. So when you go through the barrier, you target the center one of those 3. That way you hit all 3 of them at the same time. You walk across them and let the little crabs pile up underneath. If you're lucky, you end up chinning everything instead of just half the room. When you have your chins up and you're chinning mob piles, make sure you wear the Darkbow necklace or the ECB necklace, depending on which one you prefer. I'm using the Debo one because I like chin Debos to clear big piles of mobs. And then for situations whenever you drop back to single target because there's only one mob alive, or if they're not standing in a formation where the chins are beneficial, just use your Eldritch Crossbow or your Blight Bounce or Ascensions or whatever single target weapon you have. Good example of this is going to be this next area. The two mages by the barrier could be chinned. I chose to just put my Eldritch on and deal with all four of these mobs one by one. So it's the two mages and the Krasin scouts. Another thing that's also useful to think about here is that if you're going to be using Greater Ricochet or Corruption Shot, you may want to put on the single target weapon to get the T92 damage from that, since chins don't multiply them the way that some people think they do. Using Corruption Shot with the chin jumpas doesn't actually give you 9 Corruption Shots, it just gives you 1 that's slightly damage capped. Kill all the zombies however you want. Run around to group them up and just chin whatever's alive. Thought I was done there, but I wasn't. So the two mages by the barrier, and then however much you want, depending on if you want to pre-build on a dummy or if you want to go to PVM hub or if you just want to go straight into the boss. I chose to pre-build on a dummy for every boss here because I think it's more fun. The dummy rotation is the same as it would be in any other place. You just start with a natural instinct, you use your Sentry bolts and your Greater Ricochet to get back up to 100, then you throw an incendiary shot and you do the same thing. One detail that could be good to know is that whenever your drone is back up to 100, you kind of want to wait for Greater Ricochet to be close to available again. You surge in, throw a one bomb under the snake's head, DS, and then you ricochet and a drum pot. Get your drone up, Eldritch spec, snapshot rapid fire. As soon as you see a ruby proc, you put your Hydrix bolt back on. Shadow tendril. Another ECB. Keep your Eldritch spec up as much as you can during this fight. The boss doesn't really do any damage to you anyway, so you might as well. Another snap and rapid. And then finish with a dark bow. After this you want to ECB again. And then use your Limitless Sigil to have the thresholds available to finish the boss off before he switches sides. So that was 57 seconds, which is not amazing, but it's not terrible either. I think the best kill that I've done ranging was 51, and the best that I've done meleeing was 49, to put into perspective that they are kind of close, but I still haven't been able to surpass the melee record. This is where you would end up using your acceleration potion if you had brought one instead of the vitality like I fucked up and did. In this area, the mage and all the little crabs around him. And then in here, kind of just do whatever you want. You can start picking them off one by one if you want to, or you can go a little bit slower and just wait for them to group up so you can chin them all. After running across this ridge, you want to put your chins on because you have 3 guys down here that need to die. So you let them group up and then you just chin all 3. Kill one of the necromancers that are on either side of this hole in the floor or whatever that is. After one of those is dead, you kill the 3 guys that are standing over by the barrier and that will open it up. Doesn't matter which necromancy you do, people go on different sides. I've just always been on the west side for some reason. Now kill the respective necromancers that are standing in front of the barriers on either side. If you want to, you can throw a mark down on one of them, so in case he runs away and gets lost in the mob pile, it will be easy to find which one it is. When they're dead, just activate the Blackstone artifacts. Something happened on an update a while ago. I don't remember when. I think it was about a week ago from the release date of this video, where during the bridge, the rangers along the sides up on the walls, they don't actually attack you anymore. So this is looking a little bit differently than it usually does. I'm just praying Soul Split and running through. Otherwise, you'd be praying ranged and using devotion here to get rid of some of the damage from the rangers. But yeah, I'm going into a corner, putting my chins on, and I'm trying to chin the 3 NPCs that need to die here, which is a necromancer and the 2, whatever the fuck they are, gorillas, sea horrors, I think. But yeah, clearing everything out. There's not a lot to it. These 3 pricks. Deal with them, however. I screwed it up this specific time and I didn't use my chins on all 3 of them. I also lost the formation, but what you can do is you can chin the middle one and that will kill the others as well. Surge Blade dive through there. Try to get the mages to not attack you. And then kill everything that's close to this barrier. You don't have to kill everything if you don't wanna. I chose to do it because I wanted to be able to pre-build on a dummy and go straight into Taraket. That's up to you if you prioritize run speed or if you want to have a fatter P1 adren-wise for Taraket. I chose the latter because I think it's fun and I never really cared about full run speed anyway. Pre-build there is, I cut to another clip by the way if you wonder what happens. Pre-build there is the same shit, natural instinct into incendiary shot. So now I'm frag shotting Taraket. I'm running over towards this area to drag Taraket. It looks weird because he only moves between his auto attacks. But you want him to be standing where he's standing now because that's where he's going to spawn the portal that happens, and if he's standing on it or 1 square adjacent to it, you can use your chins to clear both of them. So after my initial ladder spec, I put my chins on, use my dark bow EOF, and then I debow Taraket and the portal. Taraket passes below the 200k threshold and he spawns the first minion. I'm also not paying mind to which minion spawns first because the method I'm using here makes it so that it doesn't really matter which one it is. They're both going to end up dying and it doesn't save you a ton of time to do it differently. So I'm standing 1 square north of Taraket. That way the minion ends up being within his 1 square border and I can chin both Taraket and the minion at the same time. Here I'm using the dark bow as much as I can, otherwise just really thresh dumping. And then when the minion drops low, I switch to single target to face Taraket faster, and I just finish the remainder HP of the minion during the time I'm waiting for Taraket to spawn the second one. And then I'm pretty much repeating the same thing. I also threw an incendiary shot on Taraket while he was flying there to get a little bit more fun adren building during P3, but I don't think it ended up making a ton of difference. Now you want to do swiftness again, and this time use your adrenaline potion. Put your chins on. Do the same thing with the luring, so you end up having Taraket and the bloat, in this case, standing near each other, so you can chin and kill them both. And during this period, also use your Undead Slayer sigil once more. As soon as the big guy's dead, back to your Eldritch, ECB spec, and then single target, just mow Taraket down while avoiding the ghosts. You'll also see that during the ECB specs with single target here, I'm using the Salve amulet rather than any of my special attack amulets. Taraket's too small to benefit from Seren Godbow, and debowing adren-wise kind of not really worth it there. So here's just 3 single target guys that are usually spread apart a little bit. You could Eldritch these and just keep at a distance, because the 2 zombies, they can only reach you when they're in melee distance, and the Necromancer is the only guy here that has any kind of long range attack. He's maging me right now. So you don't lose a ton of HP in this room if you just stay away from everything. And then for this, the demon, Eldritch him. If you have a demon slayer, just use it. I guess, I mean, it's one mob, so it doesn't fucking matter, but I have one, so I ended up using it. Here's another point where the acceleration power burst would have been useful had I brought one. So you're running through this, you target this guy, you can mark him to keep an eye on where he is if he doesn't end up dying from the initial abilities. Run through the room, kill the other one, and since the other one is dead, just finish whatever is left of the first, if there is any, and then go through the barrier. Here I'm just running across this guy really, debowing him, going for the second one and threshing on him. One thing you probably noticed at this point, if you've been paying attention to detail, is that I'm not using the Reckless Aura. That's also a thing that I noticed when I was doing a ton of these runs, that for some reason, I don't know if it's the longer ultimate duration of the Death Swiftness that kind of kneecaps Reckless a little bit, but the best kills that I've ended up being able to do here, apart from Crassi and Leviathan, because of his outrageous defense, has been on Dark Magic, so I'm using Dark Magic for range ED3 right now. These two just ECB spec. You can Undead Slayer Sigil if you want, or you can put your salve on for some extra damage. Pretty sure it works on them anyway. And then go through here, target the middle one, and chin. Here you'll see me using the Eldritch special attack from my necklace, because this is a somewhat high life points pile, so it actually makes a difference here. But yeah, stand still, let everything group up, kill everything. Kinda it. Here I'm single target dealing with these. You can push one of them with the Scare Tactics abilities and get both. You can also wait for the skeletons to pile up. As soon as I have both the skeletons near me, just finishing them off either with single target or chins. In this case I'm doing both. For Ambassador, the pre-build is the same thing as it always is. You just also Disruption Shield before you go into the fight, so that the first mage hit is not really a thing for you. So I'm starting with my Natural Instinct, doing my Incendiary shot. Now, because of the Incendiary, there's no rotation that I can give anyone that would make sense here, because it's all going to depend heavily on Adrem procs. But as a general rule, what I tried to do here is I tried to use Greater Ricochet, Snapshot, Dark Bow, and Shadow Tendrils as much as I can. So I start everything with a Death Swiftness. I Ricochet up my Adren. Debow. The Needle Strike before the snap. Ricochet back some Adren again. Putting my Ruby Bolts on for a rapid fire. Forgetting to put my Hydrix back on. And then debowing again. And basically just doing that so I get as many Dark Bows out as I can. I also quickly just binding shot the black holes. I don't want to tank them in an armor that doesn't reduce damage like you can do in Trin Masterwork. I also have no real use to reprisal them. After the Death Swiftness is up, it's kind of up to you how comfortable you are with prayer switching. You could Eldritch spec and get a little bit faster damage to be able to face P1 before all the attack rotations are out. Here I ended up dropping into 644k, which was about, I think, one auto attack before the phase was over. So do the southwestern one. That's the last one normally, but the southwestern one can be done easily with Eldritch and then with the Greater Ricochet and the Bleed. Eldritch spec the first three. After this, it's really up to you. You can Eldritch spec again if you don't care about soul splitting back that much of your HP. But yeah, plowing through the fragments with the Eldritch crossbow is kind of a joke, so I don't really need to tell anyone how to do this. It's going to be obvious how effective it is. And at the end of this, start another build-up with the Natural Instinct and then a Incendiary shot. I'm using Incend on Ambassador and then just building up as much as I can to be able to start my Death Swiftness. Now I'm repeating the same shit that I did P1, pretty much. I'm prioritizing snapshot, my dark bows, rapid fire with the ruby bolts, and then trying to use greater ricochet as much as I can to build it run back up and do more special attacks. Just plant the smoke somewhere. And then as soon as this death swiftness is up, I end up going into an Eldritch special attack, and that's when I use my Excalibur and my Vitality of... No, Power Burst of Vitality, sorry. Omega Brain right now. This gives me a bigger damage window during the times waiting for my Death Swiftness to come off cooldown, so I can use it again for start of P3 and gets me a little bit farther ahead. During this bit, I try to plant my DS at least one square adjacent to the ambassador or on the square directly underneath him. Reason for that is because the DS 5x5 area coverage, I can just walk around the ambassador, blocking the white clouds, turning them black so he doesn't heal but still end up utilizing my DS. Here I'm also doing the Eldritch crossbow spec inside of the DS because I want to do some more damage and cut the face as much as I can time-wise. If you see me not prayer switching autos, there's no really amazing reason for that. It's part because I screw it up and part because I want to keep my life points kind of low for using the Direct Relic. So when the DS is up, revert back to your Eldritch spec and finish the boss. And that would be Ambassador dead in 349. So 349, again, it's not fantastic. My melee PR is 333. As far as I can remember, anyway. And there's a slight gap there. 349 is close to the best that I've been able to do ranging. I'm well aware that some people have done better kills. I just don't really know how yet. And shout out to the user Pernix in PVME for teaching me the method of Eldritch Whoring with Power Burst of Vitality. So ED3 is amazing fun when you range it if you don't take it that seriously. I think ED3 is kind of one of the most mentally straining ones of the three, and it's definitely the one that I enjoy the least. But ranging it these last couple of days have been a ton of fun, and I recommend anyone who likes to do ED3 normally to try it and see if that could maybe either make it even more fun, or if you liked it at once and you're sick of it, then switch styles and try the range method instead to see if you can breathe some life into it. ED3 is amazing right now, given the ridiculous price of the Eldritch crossbow. I ended up getting a double stock yesterday when I was doing this, gathering some footage. And I think it sold for around 1.7 billion combined, the two pieces. But yeah, that's range ED3. Good fun, work in progress. I don't really know everything about it yet. If you have any other ideas, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And thank you for watching.